Welcome back in live to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Today we are finishing up talking about the 2021 Michigan Wolverines football season and more importantly looking over to the 2022 season and what to look forward to. Before we get into 2022, let's close up discussing a rather disappointing performance in the Orange Bowl against let's face it, a really, really good Georgia Bulldogs team that had one bad game all year. I think they're still the best team in the country. Dill, I'm going to kick it over to you. What did you see during this Michigan game, and maybe some stuff that we can work on going into 2022? How do we close the gap?
Yeah, I think probably the key issue is we don't have a dominant passing game under Cade McNamara. I think he's really good, and you'd be a crazy to not appreciate what he's done because at the end of the day, this season I think was a major step forward for Michigan. Right,
100%.
Finally beating Ohio State, winning the Big Ten. That's in my opinion a huge deal. I get that it ended poorly, but brutal matchup for Michigan. We couldn't run the ball. Not super surprising. No one runs the ball in Georgia. And again, you put Cade in the corner where he has to be the primary guy. I don't think that's his game. And I think that reared its ugly head. And that's at least what happened on offense. Defense is harder to explain for me.
I think one other thing that was just something Cade doesn't have that JJ might is the ability to extend plays when you're facing a front four that is a front seven, really, because how much they blitz the linebackers. That's that athletic. A lot of times you're going to need to extend those plays, get out of the pocket, give your receivers some extra time to get open. Cade's just not capable of doing
that. He kind of just goes down quick. There's not the same fight, I think. You see maybe from I get JJ only played a few snaps, but you saw like absolute fight out of him. Never took easy sacks. Made a great effort to not get stuck in the pocket. So yeah, I do think you're right. It was just a tough matchup for a Cade McNamara style quarterback who does play more conservative, let's say mistake free football.
Yeah, just a defense. I wish I kind of with you. I wish I had a
Kobe
better.
Dean's like the best player I've ever seen. He was out of his mind. We couldn't get our swing game working because he's too fast. So it's like he was a very big problem along with the defensive line, and it was just a brutal kind of matchup for Michigan's offense.
He was beating offensive players to their spots of where they were supposed to go before they even got there. I mean, he just was everywhere. He was blowing up everything we tried to do. One of the more impressive performances I've seen out of a linebacker, defensive player in general. And yeah, I don't think we were able to run the ball and push those front four who are just phenomenal. Defense it's a little harder to explain. I think they did a good job of getting the ball out quick. They have two like NFL tackles like who are going to be picked this year. And they got the ball out quick. Hutch and Ajabo weren't really able to get going after the passer. Ajabo struggles setting the edge in the run. He still needs to, I think, put on some weight. And he didn't play that much. And it's just
Stetson did a good job extending.
Stetson did a great job. Stetson hit all the deep throws that he had, including that James Cook, one of the best pass catching running backs in the country, on a true freshman linebacker in Junior Colson.
They did a great job getting their matchups. That's one thing Georgia seemed to really like when they wanted to get their one-on-ones with our linebackers, James Cook, with Brock Bowers. Like they did do a very good job with that and getting a couple matchups on the edge that worked out well. Obviously, the Vinny Gray play was tough, and it's not something he's done this year, but
that was old.
They did do a good job attacking us deep, and yeah, they made their plays. And when Georgia's making their plays, they're going to be hard to beat. So
yeah. All right. Let's conclude our talk on the 2021 season in that Georgia game, and let's look forward to 2022. What are you most excited for on the offensive? I mean, in general, what are you the most excited for in this 2022 season?
I think it has to be JJ, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the flashes of brilliance he showed in that game and what he could become in terms of athleticism, like ridiculous arm talent, and a true gamer is kind of what I like. Yeah, they were down, they were getting their teeth kicked in. He was trying to put the ball, get it down the field, and he did it successfully. Did it with Edwards, did it with Angelo Anthony. And just what he did was able to do extending plays, outrunning guys like Nolan Smith and getting to the just making plays, doing things. Yeah, he takes his chances and whatnot, but like you do need a little bit of that gamer in you if you're gonna kind of, I think, climb the mountain of the Georges and the Bamas.
100%. You need a Bryce Young, a magic maker, and I
Be
think
mad.
Jay just showed that he has that ability. Another like what I'm more excited for, and it's yes his athleticism. I think that's a huge part. I think a lot of people who I see on Twitter talk about that, but like the arm talent's just there. The ball like on those 10-yard outs from the opposite hash, the ball gets there so much quicker than it does for Cade. Giving his receivers chances to get yards after catch because that ball's getting there earlier, fitting it into like more closed windows, better than Cade, having the ability to throw the deep ball. I think JJ might need a little work on the accuracy. Well, I don't know. He throws pretty good deep ball. I'm not going to be too hard on him. It just that arm.
Very good, I thought.
What'd you say?
So the one to Edwards, I thought was a very good pass.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think you see the bones. Obviously, he hit the one to Dalen Baldwin. I guess you could say he hit two to Dalen Baldwin earlier in the year, and
yeah,
of course you see the flashes, and that has to excite you as a Michigan fan, considering for Harbaugh's tenure we have not had anything close to that. And Cade's been by far the best quarterback I think Michigan's had.
Yeah.
I guess maybe it's a little close with him and Shea. Shea had moments of decent, but he did make.
It wasn't consistently good.
That's fair. I don't think I do think Cade's the best we've had, and like wildly appreciative of what he's done. I do think he's elevated the program. I think he's been kind of what they needed this year. So, nothing. It's like I hope he kind of does, whether it's transferring or sticking at Michigan. Ends up.
I'm the biggest Cade McNamara fan wherever he goes. He goes to Wisconsin, they're my second favorite team. He goes to Iowa State, they're my second favorite team. Wherever Cade goes, I'm going to be pulling for him. We owe where we are as a program right now. A lot is due to Cade McNamara, but on the other hand, it's like
you can't sit
pretty clear that JJ is the number one guy.
Can't risk losing him. Seems
to be the backup though. Does Alan Bowman? I know has another year of eligibility, but he was horrible when he came in. He attempted 4 passes, threw 1 pick, only had 9 yards on the year. Dan Villari, I think we'll see in the portal. Like we don't have much experience at. We'll have a redshirt freshman, second-year quarterback JJ McCarthy, and then if Cade transfers, like we don't have. Alan Bowman's a very experienced quarterback at Texas Tech. He just didn't play here very much, so that's a little bit concerning.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Like whether bringing a transfer, whatever. I mean, not wildly concerned with the backup. If you ride with JJ, you kind of.
Yeah.
If your starter gets hurt at any team, it's very hard often, unless you.
JJ needs to work on sliding. He took some monster hits. He's not
a slider, but I'm sure that'll happen next year.
Let's get to like the guys around him on offense, which is equally exciting in my opinion. When you talk about like what are you excited for 2022 Michigan, it's JJ McCarthy, and it's throwing to the amount of talent that he has. Just like looking at their depth chart of guys who are expected to come back, I expect Mikey Sancho to be back. I expected Cornelius Johnson to come back. Roman Wilson will be back. Angelo Anthony, I think, is going to be a stud. I think he might be one of the better Michigan receivers.
He's probably going to play a lot next year.
We'll see about AJ Henning. I think he's a candidate for the portal. He just hasn't really worked out as a wide receiver. He's a gadget guy, and I hope he stays. Like I'm a big AJ.
Yeah, he's been effective, I think, in our offense. I think he's made it work in his role.
And then obviously the duo of Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards are just you got to be excited about that. Donovan Edwards looking like he'll be more the bell cow, bigger back. Bell cow might not be the right word. They're probably going to split carries, but Blake Corum's more of the light. I don't know. Hassan Haskins, Donnie Edwards have similar running styles. They like to get downhill. I think Donnie Edwards has a little bit more
versatile.
He's a little bit more juice to him.
Yeah.
base. He's a better pass catcher. But Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards, you will be it'll be a very big challenge for you to find two running backs that are better than those two. I can't wait for those two. Donnie Edwards really was coming along towards the end of the season.
I mean, honestly, the big thing in terms of weapons is Eric All. Like, to get him back, you started to see him take the step to being like, oh, that's legitimate pro tight end, and that's huge for Michigan. He had a great game against Georgia. I mean, that catch up the seam was awesome. He's blocked extremely well all year. Hasn't dropped the ball. Like, he struggled obviously a little bit as a sophomore, and then really tightened it up, and he's put together an incredible year. So,
and it sounds like he's coming back from what he's been saying. So that's
what his Instagram said, at least. So
yeah, and we have some nice tight ends behind them. Louis Hansen, I believe, being one of them. But like Eric All, because I don't know if Schoonmaker will be back, but Eric All coming back, I think he's legit a first team All-American tight end if he wants to be. He's awesome. Let's talk about the offensive line before we move over and finish up with the defense. Keegan, it seems like to be a lock to come back. Zinter, a lock to come back. We get the transfer from Virginia. I'm forgetting his name, but he's a dog. I watched his highlights.
Oluwatimi? So
he's got some nasty in him. He's got some nasty in him.
A better athlete and more physical than Andrew Stardust, who was awesome and played well and maxed out what he had, but obviously as a walk-on, he never had the all American potential kind of that maybe Olu has. So,
and then I think Ryan Hayes is another guy at that left tackle spot who I think is a good candidate to stay. I think he could go to the draft and be a day 3 pick. That being said, he struggled against some of the more elite pass rushers, especially in that Penn State game. Struggled 2 days ago against Georgia. And so I think he's a candidate to stay. And if he does, that left or right tackle spot, Stuber will leave. I think he's going to be a day 3 pick, and he deserves to be. I think he's a solid. I think I see him as a guard in the NFL. But you'll have Carson Barnhart, Trente Jones kind of battling it out for that tackle spot. And I think both of them are great options. And if
I'd be comfortable with both of them coming in.
I was going to say, if Ryan Hayes leaves, I'm okay with Carson taking the left and Trente taking the right.
I've seen a lot from Barnhart. He's played a fair amount. I do like what he has.
I'm super surprised he didn't work his way into a starting spot. I thought either at guard or tackle he'd be a starter.
And I mean, it's tough. It's like the only really open spot would have been Keegan's, and Trevor Keegan had a great year. So
Trevor Keegan was very good. Yeah.
And I think they do want him to play tackle. It seems like they don't want him to get used to being the guard. I think they do want to bump him out to the
tackle body. And one guy I want to talk about before we move on to the defense side of the ball is I think Zach Zinter. He was a true sophomore this year. He still seems like he's a dude developing. All I hear is All-American potential, All-American potential. I'm super excited to see this guy's this third year. I think this is where we see huge jumps. They're 2 years into the program, getting that weight, that muscle on him. I am very excited to see what Zach Zinter brings next fall.
Yeah,
saw flashes this year. Him and Keegan, they're gnarly. I'm very excited to see what they bring. That being said, let's move over to the defense side of the ball, where it is a trickier. We're losing a little bit more. Obviously, losing Aiden Hutchinson, who is expected to be a top 2 pick. I think he should be the number 1 overall pick. David Ojabo was also expected to leave, earning probably a first-round spot, maybe top 20. And then I think the big question marks and probably the biggest weakness of this defense, if we're being honest, is the interior. I know it was a concern with Michigan early. They tried to bring that transfer in from USC. Hinton, Mozzie, Don Jeter. I think Don Jeter will be gone.
Yep.
Hinton and Mozzie, who are they going to come back or not? I think those are 2 big question marks. I think they both could go and be day 3 picks. I think they also could stay and be day 1 picks. What are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I mean, that. I think that will be interesting. I'd like to think at least one of them will be back. In my heart, I think both. But yeah, if they're both not back, I think you're probably gonna possibly have to look in the transfer portal or somehow replace that quicker because you do have Rayshon Benny, you do have Chris Jenkins. Like you have some guys who have Rayshon Benny you didn't see, but you can see potential there. I think Chris Jenkins had a really good year, and I was really happy with what he did.
Yeah.
But you would need some depth because Julius Welshoff I didn't think took a good step this year, so that was, I mean, it was what it was, but
yeah,
you'll have some like depth issues if both of them leave for sure.
if they both leave, I think you'll need to go to the portal. There's like Jesper obviously will be gone. Julius Welshoff, I don't think is a like viable starter there.
George Rooks, we don't know. I know
He'll have to go to the portal for it, in my opinion. And there's I mean, the great part about college football, arguably, some people say, is like there's a lot of guys in the portal looking for new homes, and that you'll have to address it there because it is a spot that is a weakness. And it's interesting because it could be either one of our strengths of the team next year. Because I think if they both come back, they're one of the better D tackle duos in the Big Ten. If they both leave, we're probably not looking very good at that spot. So that's probably the biggest thing to keep your eyes on. Looking at that edge position, very excited. Taylor Upshaw decided to come back. Mike Morris also coming back. I really liked what I saw out of Jalen Harrell. He'll be a third year next year.
I think we saw great, like a really good when he was on the field. Obviously, was not a ton, but
he started out starting over at Jabo because I think he can set the edge and play the run better. But obviously, Jabo flashed so well at the pass.
Jabo off the field. He was too down.
And then Jalen Harrell's phenomenal against run. I think he's tough as nails if he develops better pass rush. I'm excited. Obviously, Brady McGregor has been a massive.
That's a guy you hope like can make his step. And obviously had the injury in high school and didn't play as a freshman. Was out with the ACL or whatever happened to his knee.
Yeah.
But big potential. One of the higher rated recruits in 2019, and hopefully he can make a big step and kind of fulfill maybe what the potential he has and kind of realize it because he was a guy everyone in the country wanted.
Let's move on to the linebacker spot. Josh Ross, I don't think he has any more years of eligibility, so he's gone. One of my favorite Michigan players. Very, very solid leader on the defense. I think he did a lot of the calling the plays.
He's a guy like you'll look back. That was he'll be a fan favorite at least for me.
That being said,
I love that he stayed. I think he was part of this build back with Hutch and
100% he was. Yeah, absolutely.
And all those guys who stuck around.
Now that being said, his backups probably have they're probably better athletes than him.
Yeah.
Ross more of a tough in the box linebacker. Junior Colson, Nikhai Hill-Green, Mike Barrett. I'm interested if he stays. I think he will. He seems like he's a rider for Michigan, but Nikhai Hill-Green and Junior Colson are setting up to be a really, really dynamic linebacker duo. Very excited for that. Khalil Mullins, Jaden Hood kind of topping off the depth. There are some other linebackers that you're kind of excited to see deep around in the depth chart too. I'm excited for Junior and Nikhai though. I think
I think you saw Nikhai really he emerged, and that was awesome to see him. Obviously, didn't play really at all as a freshman, maybe some special teams, but Colson is a true freshman and I think played really well. Yeah. But I think those two with another year of experience, another year filling out their frames and getting more athletic.
Junior Colson especially. I think he could fill out his frame a little bit more, get better at stacking those blocks. But he's you can tell he's
the athleticism and the potential he has. So I think this could be a unit that goes from being it's not it's just kind of, it was good. It wasn't great though. I think you could see a really great linebacking unit this year.
Moving on, to the back end, Brad Hawkins leaves, another one of those veterans that it's going to be a tough loss. But the emergence of Rod Moore, I should also touch on Daxton Hill's also leaving, most likely declaring for the draft. He's been phenomenal all year for us, whether it's blitzing, whether it's playing the run, whether it's in defending the pass. All those phases, he's been really good. He'll be deeply, deeply missed. Brad Hawkins will also be missed as just another veteran leader who's very reliable in the back end. But the story of this Michigan team is there are young guys who can come in and fill these gaps and who could potentially get better. Rod Moore was a true freshman this year and was all over the field when he got a shot against Penn State. He was disgusting. He was so good.
He's so good. He played awesome against Ohio State. I thought that was like one of the better safety.
Phenomenal tackling space, very sticky in coverage. I'm excited. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Rod Moore kick down into that nickelback spot because I think he's very good.
What's exciting about him is he was a true freshman who didn't come in early and was a middle 3-star recruit. So it's like you maybe think probably not a ready to go athlete as a true freshman at that level of recruit. I get that 24/7 and that isn't the end all be all, but I think they do kind of see who they think is like primed athletically. And yeah, Rod Moore obviously just came on at the end of the year, earned his spot, and yeah, looked awesome. So I think with him getting another year and a full year with the strength staff and all that is hugely beneficial. And kind of tack on to a great year he had this year, showed a lot of versatility, as you kind of noted.
Yeah, and then I'm waiting on Makari Page, a high recruit. Him and Jordan Moran both coming in as safeties. We'll see if they can kind of get on the field. RJ Moten's obviously been pretty solid for us.
What a good year.
And we'll see about the DBs. Vincent Gray obviously had a tough last game, but has been pretty good this year.
I hope he's back. I mean, like, people like sour on him because of that like one play he gave up in the Georgia game. Like, yeah, that was.
He's been good though. He's been
not a right moment, but he was really good against the Ohio State wideouts. And
DJ Turner has been nails. I think he's an first team All Big Ten guy when he comes back and is just a stud. Super sticky. Doesn't have that much size. Like you saw George Pickens kind of body him up and make that catch. That's obviously a dummy talented guy, but he's very, very sticky, always in the pocket of guys. If he develops better ball skills, and he already has good ball skills and more physicality, I think he's a really special quarterback. I'm excited for him as well.
Yeah, I think that was another huge, like some guys who just came out of the woodwork, if you will. And
yep. Yeah, Rod Moore was that guy. I mean, Rod Moore out of absolutely nowhere. Him and Kyle Green.
Yeah, Nakai, DJ Turner, I think could very easily fall. Like guys who were kind of like, yeah, they'd maybe be depth guys of their classes, but like, yeah, took massive steps and obviously showed they can compete at the highest level.
We were all excited for Mike Barrett. And then we seeing reports like August, like Kyle Green's like the starting backer over Mike Barrett. And I was like, no way, what is this?
He's good.
He's good, and Mike Barrett's good too. And I hope Mike Barrett.
We saw more at the end of the year. I wish he played more in the Michigan State game and some of those early games where I think he could have been very helpful stopping the run.
Yeah.
And getting a little physicality along with
guy, and they have him listed as like the Mike, so you can play him at back, but you can also like stretch him to nickel, and that will help. And that's why he was on the field. But like we struggled so much with substitutions.
Mm-hmm.
When guys got going on us, Mike McDonald's defense wants to get the perfect personnel in. And like when teams are pushing pace on you, you can't sub. We got called numerous times for having 12 men on the field. We got in trouble numerous times for being in the middle of substitutions when teams are starting to run their play. Mike Barrett allows you to keep that personnel on, and I think he's very, very good in coverage. And obviously extremely.
Yeah, I'm a huge. I feel like I don't know. I get a sense I just am a fan. I like Mike Barrett. I like the energy he brings on special teams.
Yeah.
The fake punch, like they're all. It's just he's been a guy who's been really kind of under the radar, but played really well when he gets his opportunities, and I think you'll see him if he comes back. I think he will play.
Yeah,
be more involved without Dax Hill. That's kind of.
Mike Barrett was a guy, and again, I echo that. I hope he comes back. He was a guy who lost his starting spot and was literally the first person to get down to the end zone every time I kick off. Always chirping, always making plays. He's showing the most effort on special teams. And he's like, hey, you only have like a couple snaps per game. He went at 100% every time. I loved it. I loved every second of watching him play.
Huge fan of him. Really.
There's one thing I want to do before we close the show and talk about I think the defense, one improvement that it's not even personnel based is we're gonna get more comfortable learning this scheme that Mike McDonald's.
And Mike McDonald will get another year of comfort calling D. Like,
Yes, 100%.
obviously his first year too, and
It was evident that there were certain times that Michigan was, and this because it is so different from what they used to run. And a lot of these guys were still getting used to it. I think there was a lot of times that we struggled to like drop back into our zones because we just, I guess, weren't very disciplined at it and didn't do it that much. There's also times where we just couldn't get lined up and couldn't get our plays in on time.
you wonder if Georgia was able to catch him out on a couple, like, get him in brutal matchups and get guys open. Yeah.
When you have your star pass rusher and Aiden Hutchinson looking over at the sideline, trying to organize where his players are instead of focusing on that ball and when it gets snapped to get to the quarterback, that's a problem. And it was a problem for a lot of this year. So I think getting guys more used to this scheme, to these packages that Mike McDonald brought in, because they're obviously working. This defense was freaking good. But when they can execute it better, the personnel is going to be just as good, if not better, in my opinion. You obviously lose some really good guys, but there are some very, very good guys. And one other guy, Andre Seldon, just to throw a name out there. I'm excited for like what he does. I'm excited, and then echoing, just excited about getting this new scheme figured out. We're going up on time, so we're gonna just preview the schedule real quick. Saturday, September 3rd, Colorado State in Ann Arbor. Should be an easy win. I'm very excited looking at these first three games. They're all home against the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, UConn Huskies, three bottom-tier FBS teams.
For sure.
I don't even know if you want to consider UConn an FBS team. They're just like Division III at this point. They did bring in Jim Moore and got a Penn State recruit, though. Anyways, that'll be a very good time for JJ to just develop that chemistry with Andrew Anthony, AJ Henning, Cornelius Johnson, Eric Gall, guys that they're going to need to get adjusted to a hotter ball. Like JJ slings it. And so giving that time to develop. And then Maryland, don't sleep on Maryland. Their defense probably will stink. They brought in Jacob Copeland in the transfer portal, him, Raheem Jarrett, and Dante Demas.
I feel like we're waiting on them every year to pop off, and they keep.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Then we go to play Iowa in Kinnick Stadium. I don't think Iowa will be as good. Losing some guys on the offensive line, losing a lot of those members on the defense. And Iowa wasn't good this year. We smoked them. They were not a top 25 team. They beat a Penn State team that wasn't that good either. And so,
I don't know if I agree with that. I think like they're right on the cusp of 25-ish.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
They should have probably beaten Kentucky, and Kentucky is a very good team. So, well, I don't know if they're very good.
Penn State.
Tennessee, I don't know.
I think we get Penn State at home. Penn State's another one of those teams. They have a good quarterback recruit coming in, but Sean Clifford's staying for another 6 years. They lose Jahan Dotson, who's pretty much their only good player on offense.
Yeah, but they've done a good job. I'm sure they'll be talented.
Is it Parker Washington, by the way?
Yeah, that guy can play.
He can play. I don't think he's quite Dotson, but like he can play ball. And the Sean Clifford stinks. So
I don't have a doubt they'll come in ready to go.
The Cornhuskers lose Adrian Martinez. I think they didn't get a quarterback commit, right? But they did bring in Pitt's OC, which is interesting because Pitt was cooking with gas on offense. Mark Whipple.
So you keep talking. I think Nebraska may have got. Let me look.
All right, and I'm gonna keep going through what you look. Michigan State lose Kenneth Walker, pretty much their only good player on that team. They shouldn't have beat us last year. We're gonna smoke them this year. End of story. Illinois kind of always stinks. Not worried about that. Hoosiers, Rutgers. Like I see us being undefeated going into Ohio State. I know that's a lot of good teams we have to play, but a lot of those good teams are playing at home. I'm pretty sure this Michigan State game is also at home. We played them away this year, so I think that might be wrong. Iowa and Kinnick Stadium is going to be highlighted, but at the end of the day, it's as always, it's going to come down to Ohio State Buckeyes. We're going into Ohio, and
they got Casey Thompson. Sorry.
That's so I feel like it has some Casey Thompson.
I did too when you said it. I was like, we just talked about this. But
if you can't make playing quarterback work in the Big 12, like, hey, buddy, good luck in the Big Ten because the Big Ten West. I don't know. You might have a little bit more success.
I think he's better than you think, personally. I think Texas was a joke this year, just like poorly executing.
Casey Thompson stinks. You're just remembering them playing a horrible Colorado game in the bowl game.
That could be true for sure. I did think like, oh, this guy's Eisman guy.
We finish against the Ohio State Buckeyes, who, I mean, later in the season, we're going to preview. They're also going to be super talented. We saw those wide receivers on display in the
You got the monkey off our back, so I think maybe like you have a more like how Ohio State feels about Michigan. That's not. I don't think that's the like now everybody kind of knows like
Yeah.
we're not just gonna trot out there and beat them. Like you're on notice, and I do think that was huge for Michigan.
100%. But I think it's non-negotiable that it's a pretty easy. Like we do not play anyone out of conference. UConn, Huskies, Hawaii, and Colorado State stink, and we're not playing Wisconsin.
Yeah.
It's a not that hard of a schedule. I do think it'll be a down year for Penn State as it sits out right now. They lose a lot of guys, but again, it's going to come down to Ohio State like it does all year. That's a review for this 2022 season.
One last thing I want to touch on is it was huge not to lose like mass exodus on the coaching staff. And I think we'll lose a couple like the lower levels, but I think we'll keep Sherrone Moore at this point. Or I'd certainly like to think we will. And I'd like to think we keep Hilo, Clinkscale, and Bellamy. So I think being able to keep along with the coordinators, of course, like but that's such a big thing. I think at least for this point in where Michigan's at, kind of like really starting a true build is kind of where you hope this goes. Like you kind of been waiting 5-6 years now. Now there's some real like beat Ohio State, won the big, like the accomplishments now are setting the stage hopefully for a really good build. And I think it was huge to not lose like the whole staff kind of thing, like how maybe Clemson did or some of these big programs do periodically.
Yeah, phenomenal recruiters. They obviously has something special going on in Ann Arbor that's not negotiable. Yeah, that's a preview of the 2022 season. Again, tough loss against Georgia, but there's a lot of stuff to be optimistic about in the future. We talked about in this podcast. Thank you guys for being here, sticking with us, and we will be back with more previews, and we'll be back with more NFL draft content in the later days. Talk to you guys later. Peace.